a situation where we can unite black people, And by uniting black people, we don't mean that they must be in one political party, but uniting the progressive political parties. And MK was really formed for that, to create a platform for that unity. Now, within MK, we've managed to have other smaller parties. Yes, they are very small, excuse me, but we've had those parties coming into MK.
Hi guys, welcome to my Simon Show. Today I have an honor to be joined by a man who needs no introduction. Today we are joined by an entrepreneur, an advocate, a member of MK Party. Advocate, how are you, sir?
Very well, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Advocate Dali Mpofu. It's an honor to have you, sir.
Very well, thank you.
Sir, before you delve more into law, you worked at Mercedes-Benz, right?
Yes, I worked at Mercedes-Benz in the early 80s,
What were your roles there?
I was just an ordinary laborer. I was a welder. I used to make cars,
As a kid growing up in the 70s, joining the struggles in the 70s, growing up in the 80s, those were the real tough times, and the early 90s. My history teacher told me about it. A lot of people died between 90 and 1994 than the ones who were dying previously. Those were real tough times. What kind of triggered your mind to say in the 80s, I want to start law?
Well, I was already at university studying engineering, and then I just lost interest really in that. I had always wanted to study law, but I was not going to be able to afford it. So, because my parents, didn't have money, I grew up in a very poor family. So I managed to get a scholarship to come to Wits to do engineering. So when I was already here, then it was easier to change to what I really wanted to do here.
Yes. And how were your experience at Wits University as a young person from outside Gauteng, from East London?
Yeah, well, those days, remember, there were not many black students at university. You actually needed to get consent from the government to study in a so-called white university.
Yes.
So that is why the entry point had to be the engineering degree, because that was not offered in the black universities. So that's how we managed to get that consent. But as I said, once you're here, well, when I got here, the first thing I did was to look out for political organizations that were operating here, because I was already an activist then. I had already been in and out of the prisons and detention centers.
From the 70s?
From the early 80s, So it was natural that I joined the student organization that was dealing with the political issues. Until by 1985, I was the president of the Black Student Society here at Wits.
How did Black consciousness then play a huge role in shaping your political perspective?
Well, Black consciousness played a major role because, the person, I had a relative who really got me interested in politics around, let's say, 1975 or so. And then, of course, 1976 was the student uprisings. By 1977, the Black consciousness leader, Steve Biko, was killed. And he lived not far from where I lived here. So Black consciousness, which was his philosophy, had a huge impact on my early political life, as it were.
So coming 2013, 2014, it becomes a very turning point in your political career in terms of migrating from the ANC, joining very young people that you were representing in court when they said they want to form an organization that stands for the challenges that young people are facing.
Yes.
And you decided to go with them. What enticed you to believe in these young people who were from the youth league and they were going through troubles by then. And this is the ANC that you have been believing for the past 30 years, and now you just need to migrate just like that with these young people.
Yeah, no, it was not an easy decision, having been in the ANC for more than 30 years at that stage. But as I always say, even in the ANC, I was always more on the radical side of the ANC, because I believed that we needed fundamental change, not cosmetic or reformist kind of changes. So the message of the ANC Youth League resonated with me maybe more than the mother body. Remember that I myself was a product of the ANC Youth League.
Yes.
In fact, I was a product of youth politics even before the ANC was unbanned. Right here, I used to be, addressing meetings on this campus with Peter Mukaba. We used to invite Peter Mukaba almost every month here, month in and month out. And I was involved in the Soweto Youth Congress in the 80s, long before the unbanning of the ANC. So my relationship with the leaders of the Youth League, politically speaking, came from that. Yeah. So when they were clearly ill-treated and abused by the ANC for no reason other than the fact that they were espousing more radical policies such as land expropriation without compensation, nationalization of mines and all that. Then myself and various other people in the ANC who agreed with them, felt that maybe the time to try and change the ANC from within was over. And that's really what informed my decision to join the EFF in 2013.
In nutshell, do you want to tell me that the ANC was deviating from its original purpose when it comes to, you mentioned the issue of land, you mentioned other factors? Think the ANC was like losing its purpose?
Oh, certainly. Remember, the ANC lost its direction totally. Because remember, the ANC was formed primarily to address the land question. The ANC was formed in 1912 as a direct reaction to the so-called Union of South Africa, which was formed between the Afrikaners and the English in 1910. So it was a direct reaction to that, to the exclusion of Africans in particular from their land. And if you look at the founding documents of the ANC, they also talk about Pan-Africanism as long ago as when it was from 1911, 1912. So, the ANC of today, or at least the ANC that could expel people for preaching exactly what the ANC was formed for, meant that there was a political confusion and a major deviation from the original cause, and I could no longer relate to that.
Say you are a very important person in terms of shaping the EFF. You played a very pivotal role with others, including the former Deputy President of the EFF, Floyd Shivambu, Ndlozi, Dr. Mbuyiseni. But there's a special moment that I want maybe to focus on. The Marikana massacre in 2012. You represented them in court, and I always tell people to say the Marikana massacre played a very pivotal role in terms of accelerating the growth of the EFF, and also even like leading the members of the youth league to say, let's form our organization. And in a nutshell, say, do you think the EFF failed the people of Marikana when it comes to the issue of housing that they were fighting, the issue of ill treatment that we're facing in mines, no increment to salaries? I know Lomnin had promised to build houses under Shanduka, which the sitting president who was chairing by then, they promised them a lot of things that none of them, they have never done it. Do you feel that the EFF has failed the people of Marikana?
No, certainly not. The EFF did not fail the people of Marikana. Actually, to the contrary, the EFF highlighted the struggles of the people of Marikana in a very big way. It was not for the EFF to actually build the houses or to increase the salaries. All the EFF could do, because the EFF is not in power and it doesn't own the mine, all it could do was to agitate, and that it had done very, very well. By keeping the struggle of the workers in Marikana, not forgotten. I think if it wasn't for the efforts of the EFF and AMCU, that massacre could have been forgotten by now. And so, the EFF, the Marikana massacre played a pivotal role. I think the president of the EFF is on record as saying that at that stage he had decided basically to leave politics. But when those workers said to him that, look, we need a political home, that then it made him to change his mind about leaving politics altogether. So we can say that the rest is history, and that history really emanated directly and indirectly from the victims of the Marikana massacre.
Growing up, I always felt like the EFF is the true organization that cares about Black people. Before MK just came in like a year ago, I always believed that. Did the EFF after 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16 go back to the people of Marikana to see how their conditions are because I believe these were the saviors of the Black people. Did they go and say, these people have promised this and that? I know it's not them. They're not government anyway. They're just an oppositional party that tried to fight for the struggles of Black people.
Yes, no, the EFF did go back to the people of Marikana. Not only that, remember that in the 2016 local government elections, the EFF actually won that ward of Marikana. So the councillor of Marikana was an EFF councillor. So that was the best way in which the aspirations of those people could be represented. Not only that, one of the most long-serving MPs of the EFF, comes from there. So again, the EFF made an effort so that there's direct representation and that the voice of Marikana is heard even in Cape Town in Parliament. So I think that they did an excellent job. I mean, if you talk about myself representing those workers, even that was an indirect product of the EFF's intervention, because my instructing attorney had been procured by them. So you can imagine if that intervention was not made, that commission would have been a sham, and even the role of people like Cyril Ramaphosa in the thing might have been swept under the carpet.
So you and others are the blueprint of the EFF, the founding fathers of the EFF. Comes last year, you decided to also leave the EFF and join the new baby of the former President Jacob Zuma, Umkhonto Wesizwe. Was that something that you had for a very long time to say, I wish there's an alternative for me? As the EFF, I feel like we have lost what we were truly trying to achieve. And when MK came, was like, this is what exactly I was looking for.
No. It was not something like that. This was nothing against the EFF, even though some of them want to portray it like that. The issue was very simple. We wanted a situation where we can unite Black people, and by uniting Black people, we don't mean that they must be in one political party, but uniting the progressive political parties. And MK was really formed for that, to create a platform for that unity. So when the EFF rejected that message of unity, for whatever reason, then for me it was no longer a place that I could stay.
What was it? EFF as leadership, a collective decision to reject the decision, or certain individuals within?
Well, I don't know. The EFF speaks through its leaders. So when its leaders, now they've even gone further to declare MK as the enemy number one and all that. I think that's political immaturity, and it takes us back, because the cause of Black people, one of the reasons why we have been defeated for about 400 years is because the enemy has been able to divide us. All those years, You can go back to each war that happened since 1652. You'll find that the enemy has used only one strategy: divide. So they'll fight with you as Toma people, as Sutu, and then they never have had to face us as a bloc. And to give credit to the ANC, that's what the ANC wanted to stop. The ANC in 1912 said, look, we're excluded, not as Zulus or Xhosas or Tsonga or this, we're excluded as Africans. And hence, so let's form an organization. And they did that. Of course, they lost the plot along the way. And the EFF came at the right time as well to say, let's take it further from the political struggle to the economic struggle. So MK and EFF actually belong together. And that was the plan before the election, that after the election, they will come together and cooperate. But I think egos came into the picture, and which is, as I say, our weakness. We can sit here, all of us here, and then we have to run this place. The next thing, your ego and my ego will get in the way.
Yes.
And then the white people will come and say, no, Dali said this about you, or Marcel said this about you, and we start fighting. It's an old strategy which they've used not just in South Africa, across the world, throughout the colonial era, whether it was in India, whether it was in the Caribbean, wherever it was. The first thing is to divide the people. That's why during the homeland system, they had to find traditional leaders who were prepared to sell out, and they got those people to accept the nonsense of the homeland system. It's a pity, but I think that history will prove it's a question of time. Struggles are like that. The people will be the one who resolve the issue of unity. So I hope that in the next few elections, people will vote against those who are against Black unity and vote for those who are in favor of Black unity.
Sir, you have been in the political space for more than 4 decades. You have tons of experience and knowledge, very, very immense wisdom when it comes to politics and law. Looking at the rate in which political parties are claiming this power, they are so power hungry. They believe, I'm the savior, I'm the Christ. Do you believe this unity that you hope MK is trying to establish or achieve, do you think it will ever happen?
No, it will. And everything happens if you struggle for it. If we just sit back and pray that the unity will happen, it won't happen. We have to fight for it. We have to educate our people. We have to, every day try. It will happen. It might not happen now. It might not even happen in my lifetime. But I must play my role to make sure that it happens and put whatever little contribution towards that, so that in the future it happens. And it might not look like it now, but like any idea or any structure, you have to start from the beginning. It's baby steps. So let me give you an example. Now, within MK, we've managed to have other smaller parties. Yes, they are very small, excuse me, but we've had those parties coming into MK. And that's good, because we have said there's no need to collapse your party. If you want to collapse your party, fine. But if you want to keep it, fine. But let's unite. So I'll give you now an example. The BLF, Black First, Land First.
Yes, yes.
That organization, small as it was, has now come into MK. Okay, there's the other lady who had this party called Sarah. That organization, she's now in parliament as part of MK. There was another organization led by Bongani Baloyi Shiluba. That organization has been collapsed as part of MK. As I say, it's baby steps, but it means the message is at least getting into some people. Of course, the big prize would have been MK and EFF having some kind of alliance or loose arrangement or whatever. That is going to take time because, as I say, the egos have come into the way for obvious reasons. But egos come and go, but the revolution will be here long after we have departed.
Advocate, do you believe that the EFF was needed by us black people? Then now it has played its role. I won't say we don't need it anymore, but it has played its role. Now it's time for another radical, political, and more perspicuous political party to come and continue with the struggle. The EFF has run out of its purpose. Now it's time for another one to continue with the same struggle that the EFF was trying to achieve, but in a different approach, which happens to be the MK.
No. The EFF is very much needed. It will be a sad day if the EFF can die or disappear. It will take us back. We need that voice. We need the young, vibrant, radical voice. Yeah. The point is that there's no single party, whether it's the EFF or MK or the ANC, that can bring the total unity of black people.
Mm-hmm.
It is those parties that must come together and advance. Take an example. Look at what white people do. Some of them are in the DA, others are in FF Plus and so on. But have you ever had the FF Plus or the DA insulting each other in public and calling each other names and so on? No. It doesn't mean they must merge into one organization. They stay as separate, but they know that they have a mission to protect white interests and racist interests. And that's all we're saying. Yeah. You don't have to collapse anything. Look at it like this. For example, the EFF attracts mostly young people. The MK party attracts maybe the older generation. Now imagine if you put that together, it's powerful. So you don't have to close one or the other. You just have to make sure that they get into their head that black people must unite and fight their struggle. So, for example, you could have a political party that, say, concentrates on women, and maybe that's fine. You need that because you need to mobilize women as women, but it must then also be part of the broader black unity.
Say you mentioned something, making an example of DA and EFF Plus. Say, have you seen them throwing insults at each other publicly? I always believe if I have a problem with Lehlogonolo, I have his number. I call him, hey my brother, can we have coffee? Can I come to your house and we sit, we talk? I have problem with someone, maybe Thabo. I don't have Thabo's number, but I know Lehlogonolo has his number.
Yeah.
Can you help me meet with Thabo and try to resolve that issue? When it comes to my sister Duduzile, whenever she wants to express her feelings or her frustration about certain individual, she just throw it publicly out there. And I believe as a family in the house, if we have a problem, we should solve it as a family. We know each other. We know who's doing what. Call me, we sit, we talk it through. It looks a little bit uncouth, a little bit unprofessional, un-African to be calling people certain words. What is your feeling and what is your thought and view on that? Is that a way of, it's a good example because she's a leader in the MK. Is it a good example that she's setting out there to so many young people to say, if you have a problem with someone, just state it publicly in a very uncouth way?
No, look, I can't comment on the specific case here because, as you may know, I'm the chairperson of the National Disciplinary Committee of MK. So I can't comment on specific cases because that case might come to the NDC, and then I would have to recuse myself if I express a view in public. Yeah. But what I can say is this: at a general level, MK is very clear on this question. It's in our constitution where we say it is not allowed to insult other political persons, even when they are outside of MK. In fact, especially when they are outside of MK. The constitution goes further. It says you may not insult other opponents, even under serious provocation. So even if you can come and insult me, I must just, smile and give you the other cheek. Why do we do that? It's not because we're cowards. It's because we want to foster black unity. And, it would be nice if we insult each other, and then the white people will just be laughing.
Yeah, look at them.
Yeah, look at them. Yeah.
The agenda still continues.
Yes. So that principle, which is in the constitution, is not a sign of weakness. Some people might think, but why is this guy allowing this person to call them names and go around on Twitter and all that, which is what is happening to us from other political organizations. But we know what we're doing. And as I say, it's not a sign of weakness. In fact, the weaker people are the ones who are insulting, because it means they are empty shells, because they say empty vessels make the biggest noise. Yeah. So the stronger person is the one who's keeping quiet and looking at the bigger picture of the black child, not the one who's climbing on top of the mountain and calling you this and that and that. Yeah. The problem with people who make those mistakes is because they think the masses are stupid. The masses are not stupid. They are watching all this. So you can go and shout at me and at the stadium there and so on. They are looking at you. Come election time, who do you think they're going to vote for? The person who was shouting or the one who kept quiet and walked away? So, short-sighted politics, it's maturity really. It's fine. Some of these people, they will grow politically and understand that this is about, it's the people who must judge you, not your own opponents.
I love the fact that you mentioned one of the principles of the EFF, not to insult people publicly.
Of MK.
Yes, even the opponents, you don't need to. One of the things I learned from my brother Duduzane Zuma is like you can disagree with a person in a very polite and calm way. You can show your perspective to someone. You can voice your feelings and your perspective in a polite and respectful way. You don't need to be calling them names to show how you feel about certain topics, to show your views.
It's not necessary. Yeah. Remember, we're Africans.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we're Africans. So Ubuntu and respecting the next person is part of us. It's part of our culture. So there are all sorts of things that go with the fact that we are Africans.
Yes.
So the fact that I'm an African, if I can have 100 degrees and PhDs and whatnot, but an older person is still an older person. So as an African, I was taught that. It doesn't mean I must agree with you just because you are old. I can disagree with you very strongly. But the manner in which I do it must be informed by my cultural values and my norms. I can even disagree with my own parents. But I'm not going to go out and call the whole village and shout at them and call them names. I'll disagree with them in a particular way.
So, as an expert in law, I'm definitely so sure you have looked into Expropriation Act. What is your view when it comes to it? We have so many paralyzing things that are happening in the country. The EFF, the US is misinformed. President Donald Trump and Elon Musk in particular, they are very, very, very misinformed. I don't know where do they get the information from. What is your take on the act?
No, you see, the problem with the Expropriation Act thing is that both the right wing and the ANC are the ones who are misleading people. The Expropriation Act has got nothing to do. People just follow the word expropriation.
Yes.
Yeah, the word expropriation on its own means nothing. What we ask for as the radical left is expropriation without compensation. So we're not, is expropriation on its own is a neutral term. Actually, the Expropriation Act was an Expropriation Act under apartheid. So that should tell you, Expropriation Act of 1975. All that means is that when the government wants to build a road, for example, and that road has to go past your farm or your house, then the government can then have the right to expropriate your property. That's not the same thing as what we are talking about when we talk about the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution. So Cyril Ramaphosa's government used the word expropriation to fool black people to think that they are doing expropriation without compensation. And then the right-wing racists in Afri Forum also used the word expropriation as a scarecrow to tell the whole world, oh no, the world is coming to an end.
Confiscating
our land. Both of them are telling lies. The Expropriation Act is a non-event. What we want is expropriation to change the constitution to allow for the expropriation of land without compensation, so that land is in the hands of the state. That's not what is happening now. All the land, not just the land when you want to build a road or a school. All the land of South Africa. A completely different thing. So it's just gaslighting from both sides. Nothing actually has happened.
So what is making America and Afri Forum to panic when they see this act?
No, as I say, the Afri Forum, they know that what I've just said, but they just want to scaremonger, so that the government of Cyril Ramaphosa must be scared to even think about the real land redistribution. So they must think, well, if you can't even redistribute one piece of land to build a school, imagine if you said, let's redistribute the whole land. So it's about preserving white privilege and white land ownership and making sure that the black majority never has access to land.
I know the following wording says very, very, very strong one. But can we agree to say that members of the Afri Forum are the real supporters of apartheid? Those are the ones who hold on to the values and establishment and what apartheid tries to achieve. And can we agree to say the DA also hold strongly, firmly to those beliefs? In saying that, do you think the GNU, the Government of National Unity, as they have termed it, do you believe that the DA and the ANC in particular, they see eye to eye, they want to better the lives of black people? The DA is into the Government of National Unity for what is good and great for the government to try and transform this country? Or is there too for a certain agenda?
Okay, well, firstly, there is no government of national unity. That's just a gimmick. Fortunately, Helen Zille herself has explained that there's no government of national unity. It's just a coalition between the DA and the ANC. But yeah, to go back to where you started your question, there's no difference between the DA and the FF plus. They just differ in terms of emphasis. All of them are united on the fact that there should be no equality in this country, that black people must remain where they are. If there's one thing the FF plus and the DA agree on, it is that there should be no BEE, there should be no affirmative action. In other words, the apartheid economic structure must be kept as it is. So white people in South Africa, all of them, in that sense, who vote for the DA or the EFF plus are racist. Because it's racist to say that you must not address the effects of centuries of colonialism and apartheid. I mean, it should be very clear that you should do something to redress those. So and you're right, the majority of white South Africans, these are the same people who voted for the National Party to keep apartheid, to jail leaders, to ban organizations. These are the same people who were serving in the South African Defence Force to fight to preserve apartheid. So there's no sign that there's been a change of heart. Because if there was a change of heart, they would at least have addressed the issues of economic transformation and the issues of land redistribution, which go together. So we must start there. These are people who are totally against the agenda of black economic advancement. So put them aside. Then you have the ANC. Why would those people who are against black interests and black advancement, of all the black people, they say, no, we don't want MK, we don't want the EFF, we want the ANC. Anyone who can think must know that it means that the ANC, they see them as the softies, the people who are not interested in real change. Yes, and who are not interested in the plight of black people. Because the plight of black people can never be resolved without radical change. So when the DA says a coalition with MK and the EFF is doomsday, doomsday for who? It means it's doomsday for white people. And therefore the ANC has now joined the doomsday theory. Because by clubbing with the DA, they are also saying any land redistribution, proper transformation, redress is doomsday. But how can it be doomsday? It's for black people, it's not doomsday. It's a hallelujah moment. And so the ANC has specifically joined the enemies of black progress in the so-called GNU. So that's what it is. And it's fine, they can do that. They've always been collaborators throughout the history of our oppression. But it's our duty to expose that to our people so that next time when they vote, they must vote against all the white people and their sell-out partners in the ANC if they want change.
So, do you think that the ANC has failed the black people as a whole?
Yeah, the ANC has failed black people as a whole for a long time, but the ANC of Ramaphosa even more. I mean, that is a complete sellout. Ramaphosa, as I've said before, is practically a white person. Just he has a black skin. But as far as his actions are concerned, he only serves white interests. Why do you think white people would pay about 1 billion rand for Ramaphosa to be the ANC president? Why? The only reason is because he's going to serve their interests. So Ramaphosa is the same as a homeland leader. It's just that we have now one big homeland called South Africa, and the homeland leader is Cyril Ramaphosa. But he's a sellout as much as Matanzima, Mangope, and all those people. He's working for the white people. against black people and black advancement.
Looking at how things have been unfolding when it comes to Expropriation Act, the strong views of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, do you think Sir Elon Musk deep down he feels as a South African?
No, Elon Musk is a racist, is a white racist, and he thinks it's his mission now that he's close to power in America to advance the cause of white racists. He feels beholden to them, and therefore, if you are close to, like me, if I was close to any superpower, I would advance the cause of black people, of my people. Yeah. So he's doing what any racist would do when they have access to such power. That's all. So that's why he's now amplifying. Remember, Afri Forum and all those other racists have been going to America lobbying against progress in this country. So he's just one of them. One of them is now close to power, and therefore they are using Trump as their echo chamber. So that's all that's happening. Nobody should panic. We can never be defeated by racists. It doesn't matter whether they are here in Pretoria or they are in America.
The White House.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's always been like that. We had racists, people who were siding with the racist government at some stage in charge of America. Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher were extensions of the apartheid regime, but we defeated them.
The following question, I know it's a very strong one, but the recent unfolding of events has made me to question a lot of things. Do you think, Sir Elon Musk is the project of the National Party to try and advance what it wanted to achieve? Do you think that the racist white people, although I know the father said he gave him money to go and study overseas, but do you think the National Party purposefully planted Elon Musk in overseas and they were busy funding him all these years so that he can have money? Whenever you have money, sometimes it happens that you get power. Whenever you have power, you are able to advance whatever interest that you want to.
No, a racist doesn't need to be sent like that. He's a racist, so he has to do his job wherever he is. It doesn't, even if he was here, he would be having the same beliefs. It doesn't change. Yeah. So the National Party did not send Elon Musk. He sent himself as a racist, like any other racist, like all these ones in Afri Forum and the DA. Remember that Elon Musk represents the people who, in something like 7 elections, voted to keep black people out of political power. So it doesn't matter if they are in America or in the DA or in the Afri Forum, they are all the same. All of them believe one thing, that black people are not human, black people do not deserve equality, and black people should not have the land. They must live in the squatter camps like they are doing now. They must go to schools that have no electricity. They must
under the trees
they must learn there under the trees and not bother the white people. And then they must only come to white people when they have to come and and work in their gardens. That's what they believe.
South Africa recently, even currently actually, is going through tough times. Very, very, very. This is very difficult era for South Africa. We have lost our people in the DRC. What are your thoughts, sir, about the DRC war and our people having to unfortunately find themselves losing their lives in the crossfire of these things that is happening in the DRC?
Well, first of all, it's very regretful that we can lose about 14 or more people of our own soldiers, young people, and breadwinners under these circumstances. I don't know enough about the dynamics of that particular war, but whatever the dynamics are, it's very sad. What I hope is not true is what is being said by those people who know that situation intimately, are saying that our troops were sent there to side with one of the warring factions. In other words, whether it was on the side of the DRC forces against the M23 and all that. Well, if that is true, and the ministers have denied that, but I think Parliament is digging into that. If that's found to be true, then heads must roll. Because then it would have meant that our people have been sent to die to pursue sectarian interests. If, on the other hand, they were there to keep peace on the continent, then that's a worthy and a noble cause. Yeah, because we can't exist as an island. When we were under the stress of apartheid, the rest of Africa sheltered us and gave us a conduit to, the people who are against other Africans now, they sing songs about CIA Lusaka.
They don't know the meaning.
They don't know the meaning of that. That without that Lusaka, there would have been no ANC in exile to assist in fighting our struggle. Oliver Thabo, where was he going to be basing? Where were our people going to be training? We say Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. That Umkhonto Wesizwe was training in Angola. It was training in various other places. So they were very clear that we have a duty as Africans to defend African civilians wherever they are found. Just as if there was a problem here, a military problem, we would expect other Africans to come and do peacekeeping missions. But as I say, I pray that it's not true that this was just to protect the business interests of Cyril Ramaphosa or people like that. Because if that is the case, then they are guilty of treason.
What are your thoughts there on some of the biggest unfortunate events that have happened in the country in a year to previously? We learned of a man that we didn't know about called Thabo. We saw a very sophisticated, well-constructed prison escape that got us all questioning each other. How is that even possible? What are your views on that, sir?
Okay, once again, I might be involved in that case sometime in the future. So I can't talk about the specifics, but I can say this. If we have a prison system that is capable of the things that have been written about, then we're in trouble. And part of it, remember, is about privatization. Because that was one of the prisons that was privatized. And so this kind of thing may not have been possible if the prison was under public hands, as prisons should be. But it's terrible. I mean, crime of any kind, whether it's a prison escape or a bank robbery, is enabled by a particular environment. And that environment, where we find such kinds of crimes, should not be encouraged by anyone. What is worse now is that our prison services have been given to a former apartheid soldier who left. Yeah. So I mean, I think the only thing he knows is to militarize our prison system. I mean, that's the madness of the so-called GNU, to give such key departments to these people. I mean, the SABC now falls under a DA minister. Home Affairs, that's a very important strategic department, falls under a DA minister. Agriculture, which is responsible for our being alive, is under DA minister. And just to make sure that we are kept in check, even prisons are now under the FF+.
I know, say you might get involved in the Thabo case, as you have mentioned, but there's something very, very like thought-provoking. How could like a prisoner in prison make so much money, becomes a millionaire in prison, have companies that are operating, that are running in prison?
No, it's not just Thabo Bester. Thabo Bester, I think, just happens to be a well-known case. You can go to any prison now. You'll find people there with computers and selling drugs and making more money. Some of them even boast that they're making more money in prison than when they were outside, because they're now even getting free food. Yeah. And, and so it's the whole system is just messed up completely. And there are people who are supposed to be in our prisons, and the at taxpayers' expense, who are actually running drug syndicates. I've even heard recently of the worst case scenario of some of the people who can go out and commit crimes and then go back to prison. So which means you have a watertight, so the police will never catch you. If they say, this is the person who killed so-and-so, say, no, but at that time I was in prison. And so that is the end of the case. So it's a pitiful situation.
Very, very, very sad ones.
And corruption, what's behind that is corruption. Because for those people to be able to bribe the officials to get those pass outs, or whatever you call it, or to be able to sell drugs, it means that the system is not.
But the government is not aware of this.
It is. The government, the corruption involves the government. So they must be aware. But either they are helpless, or because they don't have the capacity, or they are turning a blind eye because they benefit from it, like any other corruption.
What do you think about the recent song?
The sauna?
Yes, 2025.
I stopped even listening to those things. I mean, it's anyone who takes what is said in the sauna seriously needs their head to be examined. Where's the bullet train that we were promised in 2018? Where's the smart city that we were promised in 2019? All those things. I mean, if you listen to that and actually take it seriously, then it means you are sick yourself. Because, I mean, it's just talk, just words. And there's never been any action. That whole thing is supposed to be based on the National Development Plan. The National Development Plan says between 2012 and 2030, we're supposed to be growing the economy at 5.4%. What is the growth right now? 0.3%. So those things will never be realized. Yeah, so no, it's just a fashion parade, which is meaningless. It really doesn't mean anything. And our people know that. If our people believed that nonsense that is said in the sauna, they would not have taken power from the ANC. The reason why they put the ANC at 40% is because they don't believe those things. So as the sophisticated people who are supposed to be academics and newspaper people are fools because they believe that thing. But ordinary people look at that and they say, no, we're not going to vote for this. Because we've been promised this and this and this and this, and it's not there. That's why the ANC lost political power.
The creation of jobs is one of the offense in this sauna thing, but I have never really seen a real creation of jobs happening.
No, there's no creation of jobs. I mean, as I told you, the plan of the National Development Plan is that by 2030, the unemployment rate should be at 6%. And the unemployment rate now on the expanded definition is at 42%. So how is which jobs?
The graduates are included in that.
Graduates are there, but mostly Africans. Do you know what the unemployment rate is for white people? 7%. So it's almost where that plan is. So it's a plan for white people. And for black people, it's at maybe 45. When you average it, it comes to 42. So, I mean, it's just a joke. Only, as I say, only mad people can believe what is said in the song or those promises. Because the objective statistics, it's not me saying this, the unemployment rate is there it's released by the government itself. The GDP growth rate is released by the government itself. It's not like we're playing politics. The numbers are there, they speak for themselves.
Are we going to get to a point in South Africa whereby a lot of the struggles that black people, since like way back, since we were born, our parents have been staying in shacks, our parents have been migrating from the villages, from the farmstead to come to Joburg looking for better opportunities. We are also, as young as we are migrating from the rural areas looking for better education here in Gauteng. Do you believe there will be a point whereby people in Limpopo will see no need to come to Joburg? They will be able to make a living where they are.
Yes, that's a good point, yeah. That's what we talk about when we talk about the issue of land redistribution, for example.
Yes.
Now, if you go to Limpopo, you find that there are farms there and game farms which are owned by white people. Thousands and thousands of hectares there. Those are places which could have been sustaining the people of Limpopo if they had the land. Then why would anyone with a brain, would you leave your home, your village, with the people you grew up with and go and live in some shack in Alexander next to the river? Nobody would do that. The people are doing that because they are driven by economic circumstances. So if the economic circumstances where they live, even myself, if I could, I'd rather be sitting in my village and, having a good life,
serving your own people,
serving my own people, having my cattle and all that, the way we lived as Africans before. The only reason why people come here is not because they love. Gauteng is the smallest province in South Africa. So why would people come here to be kind on top of each other? They are coming here because of the economic opportunities and living nice places with open fields and so on. Yeah. So that's the only reason that we have this situation. It's all about the economy. And if you don't transform the economy, then you're going to have an explosion, because at some stage people are not going to take this anymore. That's why most people are not even voting, because they think this whole thing is just rigged. And what's the point? And once people lose confidence, they think it's not possible to change this situation, then they're going to revolt. And there'll be what we call an unled revolution and chaos. Yeah.
What is the role that the the MK is playing in terms of educating South Africans in particular, the power of the ballot, the power to voice their feelings, their views on the ballot?
Well, MK has played a very significant role already in that sphere. Our job, obviously, is to do advocacy, political education, and get our people out to vote. I believe, I've not seen the statistics, but I believe that just the formation of MK actually increased the number of people who voted in the last election, who otherwise would have lost interest in this whole thing. And then they decided, okay, maybe here's a new kid on the block, let's try this. And I think that if you can keep on with that trajectory, maybe we'll attract more of those people who have lost interest in the entire system. Because that's a very dangerous thing. Those people should be participating. They don't have to vote for MK, they can vote for anyone. But at least they will be showing that they have confidence in the system. So all political parties should be worried if, as it has happened now, millions and millions of people are just disengaging. And they don't care, quite frankly. Whatever happens, they think that the whole system is against them.
Because in townships and in the villages, whenever we are there, we hear people, they have given up in believing that when they vote, these are the results that we're seeing. These are the genuine, true results of their votes. They have lost hope in that, and it breaks my heart that we have come to that point.
Yeah, well, that's why some of it is about political education. Because I'm sure you hear our people saying, I'm not going to vote because we don't have water. Now we have to educate the people that if you don't vote, you don't have to vote for the ANC. So if you are angry with the ANC because you don't have water, then vote for somebody else. But that message is not clear to some of our people. So all of us as activists and political parties need to play a role to show people that actually all the other people believe that, there are like 60 million people. If I vote, what difference is going to make? It's just one vote. So we have to educate people that actually every vote counts. So when we say this party got 3 million votes, those are 1. So it's not like you say, I'm just me alone. What difference will I make? You make a big difference. Because if 10 million people think they don't make a difference, then that's 10 million less votes.
Imagine like 5 members in a family who are 18 are eligible to vote. Absolutely. And vote all of them.
Absolutely.
And you find that it's only 2 who vote, 3 don't.
Or 1. And that's another issue, again, because we were excluded from political participation. White people know how to do that. You must go to the suburbs when it's voting time. The white people, they have a full car. They'll even take a gogo who's 100 years old, make sure that they go and vote, and the children, they go as a family. We go one, and leave 10 people behind. So those are some of the responsibilities for political parties and institutions such as the SABC and the IEC to do proper voter education.
So not always you drive in blue lights. Sometimes you drive yourself. You see the things on the ground. You see how the city is. Gauteng, Johannesburg, Eastern, Ekurhuleni. You see how these places are. You see, it's common. And sometimes you ask yourself if you travel like 10 miles while all the traffic lights are working. You ask yourself, wow, why is it here like all the traffic lights are working? You find out they have cut the poles. They have stolen even the street lights. They have cut the poles. Is the government not seeing that the city is dying?
No, the government can see. Well, by the way, I don't drive in blue lights. I never do. I don't think I ever will, actually. No, the government can see that, but you see, it's no longer a question of policing. It's the economic situation. So even if you get them 1 million police people, you can't stop it because the people are desperate. They have nothing else to do. So that's how the social degradation happens. So you must fix the economic conditions of people. Then they will stop bringing the city down or overburdening the infrastructure and all that. So it goes back to what you were saying. If we stop, for example, just the inward migration into Gauteng, then the cities will have less congestion and there'll be, better living conditions. But the reason why you have slums and these squatter camps and places that are unlivable is because of the economic situation.
In closing, let's reflect a little bit in your career. You have done businesses, you have played not only in politics alone, but you have led big institutions like SABC. You are one of the former CEO of SABC. What role did you play in SABC?
Well, SABC, I am very proud of what we did in that institution. People don't know that the last time the SABC had produced good results, 3-4 years in a row was when I was there. Until now, it has never happened. But more than that, we transformed that institution to be the voice of the people. Our slogan was what we call total citizen empowerment. In other words, the SABC was not about us, it was about empowering the citizens, so that the citizens, all the things I'm saying, they know their role in voting, they know that, the statistics of what's happening in the country. And then they use that information to make their own political choices or decisions. That's what the SABC is supposed to be like. It's supposed to be a public institution that represents the people. So even when you're doing a SOPI, that SOPI must be education. There must be something that educates the people, either about their culture, about their history.
Preserved.
Yeah, exactly. About just like knowing the country. So if you are living in Northern Cape, when you watch Mubango, you know that there are other people. You may never have gone there, but you go there at night when you're watching, people speaking a different language. You might even be interested to learn that language. So it's nation building in that sense, yeah. So that's what we did at the SABC, but unfortunately, again, the politics intervened, and so we had to leave that space. But it's a very, very important institution. That's why I'm disgusted by the fact that Ramaphosa gave it to the DA. It means he himself doesn't understand the power of that institution in what we call the battle of ideas. He thinks it's just a TV show for watching sport.
As a SABC and media spaces as a whole has become institutions whereby they teach us how to do crime. Most of the things that we see, it's not educational in such a way that it can challenge you to build something, can challenge you maybe just to discover something good about life, just teaches you about drugs, this and that. What is your feeling when you see that happening?
Well, it goes back to ideology, because the problem with the system we live in now, which is a neoliberal capitalist system, is that everything is driven by money, and that's where we get lost. Because imagine if you're chasing money, then you only want is to have people watching the thing. Doesn't matter what is the quality, as long as. So I always make that example that if as an SABC CEO, if I'm driven by money, you give me 2 programs. You say this one is going to make a lot of money. This one is going to educate the people. So if I'm driven by money, which one am I going to play? I'll play the one that is, because I'm judged according to how much money I make. I'm going to say to hell with educating the people. I'm going to be fired. Because if I educate the people but I don't bring the money, I'm going to be fired. Nobody wants to be fired. So the entire political system here is based on money. And until that is changed, where we put people first, we don't just say it, people before profit, then we're always going to be found wanting. I'll give you an example. A newspaper. If I'm selling a newspaper and it's driven by making money, and then you say, okay, here's 100,000 copies of the newspaper. Where am I going to take them? I'll take them to Johannesburg and Cape Town, where people are going to buy them. If someone says, take this thing to Ngoangoa, I'll say, are you mad? Why must I take my petrol, drive this newspaper there, and nobody is even going to afford it? So those people can basically see to finish. I'm going to go to where the people with money are.
So do you feel like that's what Mr. Mbuyiseni was trying to do, to empower us, to make sure that SABC is an institution that empowers us as Black people to preserve our history and culture?
Well, I don't know.
When it comes to that 90%.
Yeah. all I'm saying is that the policies of it doesn't matter who the person in charge is, but the policies, it's not about the person in charge. Because as I've explained to you, even if you have the best person in charge, if you are judging them according to a particular standard, then they have to follow that standard. So it's not about changing the leader, it's about changing the underlying policies and the outlook and the ideological outlook of the place, or of the whole country for that matter. That's why we support a socialist outlook, which puts people first, rather than a capitalist outlook, which puts money and profit first. Until we resolve that issue, we will never go anywhere. We'll just be moving around the same circle, because the rich will be getting richer, the poor will be getting poorer, and that's a recipe for chaos.
In closing, sir, what is the biggest myth that religion has sold us to make sure that we stay poor?
Well, religion, to the extent that it says that you must only worry about the so-called world after, then that's just absolute nonsense. Because even if you believe in the so-called world after, you must worry about that world after, but you must also worry about this one. Because we can't worry about the world after which we don't know, and not worry about the world we are living in now. So religion was used by the colonialists for that purpose, to numb our senses about the injustices of now, so that we worry about the world after. I think a good religious belief is one or theology, such as what Archbishop Tutu was telling us, to say, yes, I'm fighting for the world after, but I'm going to change the injustices here as well. And so that's the theology that I can live with. I can live with, in the sense that it addresses the social conditions of the now.
What is the biggest lie and myth that politics has sold us that have led us where we are today?
Well, again, it's politics of the T-shirt. That's another myth, because it becomes a tool to divide us. So if your T-shirt is pink and mine is yellow, then you are my enemy. That's not politics.
We are all living in squatter camps.
Yes, and we are both living in squatter camps, and then I must kill you because you're of the color of your T-shirt. And that's why we have, I don't even know what to call them, leaders, but people who think that they are leaders, who cannot get such a simple message that it's not about the color of the T-shirt. It's not about me. I must be the leader. If you want to be the leader, I must kill you. Or I must think that I'm the Messiah. I can solve all the problems. There's no single person or single organization that can solve all the problems. We must look at religion to take your example. Some people are Anglicans, others are Catholics, others are Methodists, and so on. But they all serve one thing called Christianity. And they don't kill each other when they see each other on Sunday, another one wearing a red thing, the other one wearing a yellow thing or whatever. Because they're going to different churches. And if they are in a funeral, they conduct the funeral together. And, but we think that, politics is like Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates.
Advocate Dalokolo Christopher Mpofu, thank you so much, sir. I won't let you go without telling me how much did MK pay you to join MK. I think they say Floyd was paid.
I wish MK didn't pay me anything. In fact, MK owes me a lot of money. Yeah. So if they had paid me something, then I wouldn't have gone there. No, we joined politics, when it was not fashionable. In the 70s and 80s, there you could be killed for being part of politics. So there was no, and actually the Boers would have paid us to be they are informers. So if we rejected it then, we
I'm
doing informers.
You have lived long enough.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cheers.